It's the 26th day of November 2024. On The Explainer tonight.
Ibada ya ukabila na chuki na migawanyiko waende wapi? Waende wapi? Waende wapi?
Mountain to the lake. Ruto raises stakes with an impromptu show of numbers in Kisumu.
That the issues between us and Uganda, where there are any concerns, will be resolved diplomatically.
Government cagey on Besige's abduction, even as it promises matter is being handled diplomatically.
We advise, as the clergy, the president, if possible, to avoid making more promises at this time, and instead focus in prioritizing flagship projects.
Enough of your promises. Evangelical churches ask President to implement promises he made to Kenyans during the campaigns. It will now cost you more to acquire birth and death certificates as government effects new fees. And on The Explainer tonight, the world is looking to mark the International Day of Persons with Disability on the 3rd of December. And Olive Burrows is having a conversation on that, even as the National Council of Persons with Disability marks 20 years. Olive is live for us from the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD. Olive, tell us about who you're speaking to and give us a bit of a tease of what the conversation is about.
Well, the conversation will be about the inclusion of persons with disability in all spheres of life, the political and socio-economic. As you mentioned, that is ahead of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities that will be marked on Tuesday next week. In fact, tomorrow they kick off the conference, the National Disability Inclusion Conference, marking 20 years of operations of the National Council for Persons with Disability. We'll have their CEO, Harun Hassan, on the panel tonight. Woman Representative Nairobi Esther Passaris, as well as Bishop Jackson Kasgay, who represents persons with disabilities in the National Assembly as a nominated Member of Parliament. And we'll also have Dr. Mike Kiswili from the National Fund for Persons with Disabilities, and he is a trustee. So stay tuned. We have plenty ahead.
That's right, Olive. Thank you very much for that. Talking about inclusion of persons with disability, an important conversation ahead of that milestone coming up. So that's the conversation we're having here on The Explainer with Olive Burrows. It's something you do not want to miss. But first, the day's top stories on The Explainer, which starts right now.
Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Yula Nzale is our sign language interpreter. Tonight, the government remains cagey about its involvement in the abduction of Uganda's opposition leader Kizza Besigye, just days after Ugandan officials claimed that Kenya was fully aware of a plan to abduct Besigye, citing intelligence correspondence aimed at tracking him down. Speaking publicly on the matter for the first time, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who is also responsible for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, carefully sidestepped direct questions about Kenya's role in the incident. He refrained from providing clear answers on whether Kenya was involved and the motive, if so. Melita Oletenges reports.
Speculation surrounding Kenya's involvement in the abduction of Uganda's opposition leader Kizza Besigye was confirmed by Ugandan authorities, putting the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and security agencies on the spot. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi seemingly walking a tightrope in response to the matter, giving vague and non-committal answers.
As much as we are open as a country, we allow a lot of latitude. we also believe that it is important that our friends and our visitors also appreciate that it's important that we maintain good relations with all our partner states.
The controversy follows the recent repatriation of 4 Turkish nationals seeking asylum in Nairobi back to Ankara, further tarnishing the government's reputation. Kenya had initially insisted that it had nothing to do with the arrest of Besigye, with this fresh twist raising the question who is fooling who.
We believe that the issues between us and Uganda, where there are any concerns, will be resolved diplomatically. And that is what we will do at all times.
The abduction of Besigye comes at a time when Kenya is expected to celebrate 60 years of advancing its foreign policy, casting a shadow over the milestone. It is seen as a setback for the country's diplomatic standing.
The incident that you refer to should not be used to judge as too harshly on what would be Kenya's outcome or matters of foreign policy.
Besigye appeared before a military court in Uganda, where the prosecution accused him of possessing 2 pistols and seeking logistical support from Uganda, Greece and other countries to undermine the nation's security. A retired army colonel, Besigye denied the allegation, stating that as a civilian, he should not be tried by a military tribunal. He was subsequently remanded to Luzira prison and is scheduled to return to court on December 2nd. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs maintains that Nairobi has established a strong footing for the past 60 years in advancing Kenya's foreign policy. But recent events, including the abduction of Uganda's opposition leader Kizza Besigye and the repatriation of persons seeking asylum in the country, has tainted the ministry's reputation, even as more questions abound on who abducted Besigye on Kenyan soil. Melita Oletenge, Citizen TV at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nairobi.
The Kenya Coalition of Church Alliances and Ministries wants President William Ruto to stop making any more promises and concentrate on delivering the campaign promises he made. The coalition has highlighted 9 key issues that it wants the government to prioritize, saying there is a general feeling by Kenyans that the top leadership in government is involved in corruption. Hence the shielding of some of the culpable individuals. Emily Chebet reports that the church lauded the cancellation of the Adani deals and called for transparency of all public affairs.
In their sustained assessment of the state of affairs in the country, the clergy under the Coalition of Registered Evangelical and Pentecostal Churches Alliance want President William Ruto to deliver on promises already made.
We advise, as the clergy, the president, if possible, to avoid making more promises at this time, and instead focus in prioritizing flagship projects and those areas that are closer to the hearts of Kenyans, and focus on delivering results of achievements. At this time, we need to have a scorecard of what has been achieved.
The church leadership has accused the top government leadership of shielding corruption.
The government's failure to decisively punish corrupt officials and recover stolen public funds is unacceptable. There seems to be a general feeling from Kenyans that the top leadership is involved in corruption, and that's why it is condoning this evil and shielding those who are found culpable, which may not be the case. It is time to walk the talk and be seen to slay the dragon of corruption in our country.
While applauding the president's move to cancel the Adani deals, the clergy cautioned the government against future blunders in tender processes. They faulted the transition from the defunct National Health Insurance Fund to Social Health Authority, calling for urgent and systemic review.
This change was meant to be the beginning of a major transformation towards universal health coverage. Instead, it has left many Kenyans without functional health insurance covers, forcing them to dig deeper into their pockets to access health care at a time of significant economic hardship.
Other issues that the clergy raised are the delay in reconstitution of IEBC, the slow construction of grade 9 classrooms ahead of transition of learners, runaway high cost of living and increased tax burden. The church leaders also asking politicians to give with the right motivation and in the right manner.
The question is not giving, it's how and why. Let us give to God. Let us ask our politicians to do that quietly, kindly, and motivated with a desire to glorify God. Yeah.
Emily Chebet, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has told Kisumu residents to join him in rejecting leaders who propagate tribal politics in the country. Ruto, who received a rousing welcome from Kondele residents, rooted for the broad-based government, terming it a coming together to unite the country devoid of tribe and religion. Stephen Leto reports.
This is Kondele, at the heart of Kisumu County, a politically active suburb, always one of the political hotspots that is used to gauge the country's political tone.
Kisumu hoye! Kondele hoye! Amoso ujodurua! Jodurua unchie!
President William Ruto was well received here in the lakeside city, emboldening his new bromance with the Orange Party. President Ruto's arrival in Kisumu, triggering a rupture of sorts in the ODM bedrock that chanted pro-Ruto slogans, giving the president embers of hope, given the growing chasm between him and the Mount Kenya region that strongly backed his ascension to the throne. Ruto piled on the charm here.
Mimi nilisimama hapa Kondele, nikasema siku moja nilisaidia Agwambo, na safari hii yeye amerudisha mkono, amenisaidia mimi. Mimi nawauliza, iko makosa hapo?
And at the same time, threw barbs at his estranged former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua, who is accused of tribal politics and pushing regional interests. Gachagua at the weekend received a heroic welcome at Uhuru Stadium in Murang'a during a musical event. A crowd gathered chanting Ruto must go in the former deputy president's presence. Ruto in Kisumu did not turn the other cheek.
Ibada ya ukabila na chuki na migawanyiko waende wapi? Waende wapi? Waende wapi? Watembee wapi? Wataenda nyumbani.
In the company of acting ODM party leader Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and the party's national chair Gladys Wanga, the region assured President Ruto of a total support as he gears towards his re-election campaigns.
Mimi kama mwenyekiti wa chama kikubwa zaidi south of Sahara and north of River Limpopo, chama cha ODM, tunakukaribisha urudi tena na uunganishe Kenya. Usiogope na usitishwe, unganisha Kenya nzima na mbele iko sawa.
President Ruto told the ODM support base that Raila Odinga's bid to the African Union Commission chairmanship is on course, and Odinga's campaign tour of the West African nations is bearing fruits. Tuesday evening, Mauritius Prime Minister exited the AUC race to support Odinga's candidature after a phone call with President William Ruto.
Si tulikubaliana Agwambo tunaenda kumuombea ili awe kiongozi wa Afrika. Nikiongea na nyinyi saa hizi, juzi alikuwa kule Ivory Coast, jana amekuwa kule Senegal, leo ako kule Nigeria akitafuta kura ya kuwa kiongozi wa bara la Afrika.
The rousing welcome President Ruto received in Kisumu is bound to raise political eyebrows with emerging political realignments ahead of the 2027 presidential contest. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Members of Parliament have raised a red flag over the more than 400 million shillings renovation budget by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for refurbishment of his Harambee Annex office, Caravan residents and Mombasa residents in the previous financial year. Documents presented before the National Assembly's Security and National Administration Committee details that some of the monies were used to repair broken kitchens, build new washrooms and plant flowers at the premises in what the committee termed wasteful spending. As Emmanuel Tonau reports, the officers who were attached to the besieged former DP are currently being cleared from the system after their sacking was confirmed.
Expenditure queries linger over former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Members of the National Assembly Security and National Administration Committee questioning the renovation expenditure in his office for the financial year 2023 to 2024. Members concerned that the renovation expenditure was equal or more than the total cost of constructing the buildings in the 1.2 billion shillings budget he requested for the works a year ago. Documents show the former DP spent 400 million to refurbish his Harambee Annex office, his official residence in Karen, and the DP's residence in Mombasa in the last financial year.
Electrical and mechanical works, reinforced concrete works and masonry, walling of swimming pool, and change washrooms of the guesting wing.
Current staff at the DP's office disclosing that 100 million shillings was spent to refurbish the Harambee House Annex, including the renovation of the 6th floor, supply of installation for 3 lifts, and revamping a VIP dining room on the 2nd floor. The total works will cost 450 million shillings by the time they are complete in 2027. The construction is at 22% of the total works.
But we're being told when that boat was constructed, it was roughly about 600 million, not far from the price you had quoted in doing minor renovations and refurbishment.
We also need to replace our corridors. You realize the tiles need to be changed. They've already started cracking. We also have renovation of the kitchenettes, 7 of them, remodeling of the basement areas.
Gachagua also spent 250 million shillings to give a facelift to his current residence. These included the construction of a 50-seater cabinet meeting room, a 100-seater dining room, supply of furniture and fittings, and construction of a garage and 2 washrooms. The total cost on completion will be 560 million shillings, about 100 million shillings more than the amount used to build the residence. The works are nearly halfway done. Similarly, the Mombasa residents got a state-of-the-art swimming pool, air conditioning system, new ceiling boards, new washrooms and a guest wing. All these at a whopping 50 million shillings. The total cost of the project will hit 240 million shillings by the end of the refurbishment. 108 employees who served under Gachagua on contract basis were sacked. Some of the employees have since moved to court for redress.
Their contracts were also deemed to have come to an end by that 31st of last month. As we speak right now, the processes of clearing them is going on to have them cleared and also to pay them their final dues as required by the law.
Emmanuel Tonau, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
It will now cost Kenyans more to acquire birth and death certificates after the state effected new fees for various services offered by the State Department of Immigration and Citizen Services. In a special Gazette notice by then Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, Kenyans will part with 1,000 shillings to re-register birth and death certificates, as well as 500 shillings for late registration. Kamau Mwangi has the details.
After the gazettement of new fees and levies in November 2023 and the subsequent revoking of the same gazette notice a week later by then Interior CS Kithure Kindiki to pave way for adequate public participation, government has now a year later ratified charges to crucial government documents starting last month. In a special Kenya Gazette supplement a month prior to his ascent to the office of Deputy President, Kithure Kindiki gazetted the new fees, which include an upward revision of the registration of births and deaths that will now cost Kenyans Kenya shillings 200, up from 50 Kenya shillings. Late registrations of the same will also see Kenyans cough up to 500 Kenya shillings for that service, a Kenya shillings 350 addition to the previous 150 Kenya shillings. In case of loss of any of the two documents, one will have to part with Kenya shillings 1,000, up from the current 90 Kenya shillings. To make amendments to the same documents, in case of an error, be it a typo or a missing letter in a name, you will be forced to cough 1,000 Kenya shillings as opposed to 130 Kenya shillings in the previous rate. Foreign registration of births in Kenyan missions abroad will require Kenyans in those countries to pay up to $150, the equivalent of 19,000 Kenya shillings. In other changes, authenticating the seal of the principal registrar will now cost Kenyans 500 Kenya shillings, with the same service going for $100 by a foreign mission in Kenya. For the registration of a birth or death of a Kenyan citizen occurring abroad but made in Kenya, the charge will be 1,000 Kenya shillings, with the registration of a presumed death going for 1,500 Kenya shillings, up from 150 Kenya shillings. The upward review is one of the ways the government is seeking to raise its revenues, with the changes coming concurrently with those that raise the fees that one requires to acquire a passport for foreign travel. Kamau Mwangi, Citizen TV.
Former employees of NHIF will know their fate with the Social Health Authority in 6 months. The authority's acting CEO, Robert Ingasira, says the employees whose engagement with NHIF ended last week will work with the authority for the next 6 months as it gets its house in order. The clarification came amidst growing discontent among some of the affected staff, who say their interests should be protected even as the transition to the Social Health Authority moves to the next phase.
Last Friday marked the last day of the existence of the old NHIF, with the new kid on the block, SHA, inheriting all its functions. The outfit's 1,700 permanent and pensionable employees left in abeyance.
And as NHIF staff, we have a lot of anxiety. We have a lot of fear.
The acting CEO of the authority has moved to reassure former NHIS staffers that they still have a lifeline for at least the next 6 months.
The expectation is that within 6 months, SHA will have determined the number of staffs and the qualifications of those staff that is willing to take. Thereafter, the balance of staff will be released back to public service.
According to the transition clauses, the staff of NHIF were accorded 3 options: to apply for SHA jobs, to be deployed to other government entities through the Public Service Commission, and early voluntary retirement.
At that stage, those who will be interested in exercising the option to retire will now be given that opportunity at that stage. Retirement is voluntary, and retirement now will be subjected to other regulations.
The authority has in the past stated that it has an initial staff establishment of 500 employees approved by the PSC and is set to advertise those jobs before the end of the year. But while SHA still grapples with the human resource aspects of its operations, it says the rollout of health services under the universal health coverage is now stabilizing. While acknowledging initial challenges, SHA now says it has moved to clear some of the claims it owes to facilities, public, private, and faith-based ones.
The 3.7, I need to add that this is a moving figure. It changes every second. As we sit here, this figure keeps growing. So these are claims that have accumulated since the time we rolled out, from 1st of October.
At the same time, patients seeking primary healthcare services will now be able to access them at select Level 4 facilities in addition to those at Level 2 and Level 3, as the authority seeks to make these services more accessible to the public. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
The Kenya Association of Manufacturers estimates that 3 billion shillings of taxpayers' money is lost to corruption on a daily basis. monies that could instead be invested in boosting the manufacturing sector with the aim of creating employment and promoting local products. The Law Society of Kenya leading other entities which presented their submissions on the proposed tax laws by Treasury in calling for consideration and sobriety as regards the common wananchi before introducing and implementing new taxes. Seth Olale with the day's proceedings from the Kenyatta International Convention Center.
Wastage of public resources obtained through taxes is costing the country more than 3 billion shillings daily. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers, while presenting its submissions on the proposed tax laws by Treasury, lamented corruption and its effects on business expansion in the country.
If I have to use the finance minister word, Mr. Badi, saying 2 billion are lost every day, and we believe it's 3 billion, with especially housing levy and slowly SHIF coming in. Do we need these taxes? If we get 50% savings, you don't need these taxes.
The manufacturers decrying high cost of industrial material, a major stumbling block towards propelling industrialization meant to uplift the economy through job creation and promotion of locally produced raw materials.
Business has serious problem, cash flow problem. I think nobody's understanding that collecting tax is one thing, how the tax are utilized. And I'll just tell you, in the last 3 months, we have had Kentrade charging $10 per entry. First of all, why do they charge in dollar? Are we a dollar economy or Kenya shilling?
Some of them are not actually manufacturing. They just import the finished product and repackage. And that's why we are trying to do this, because a few of them that are trying to be actually manufacturing are not able to be competitive because there are some economies that have, whether it is cheaper loans or cheaper energy or something like that. So these our local products are not able to compete in the market.
The Law Society of Kenya, ISPAC, Safaricom, American Towers Kenya, and Alcohol Brewers Association of Kenya, among entities which called for consideration and sobriety for the common wananchi before introducing and implementing new taxes.
It's the arrogance that came out of members of parliament. And many people commented on it, that if this is the way they are talking, then this thing must be bad. Please, plead with your members.
Additional feedback is being received online by the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, with just 48 hours remaining to the conclusion of the public hearing exercise. Seth Olale, Citizen TV, KICC.
All right, it's time for us to take our first commercial break here on the program tonight. But a quick reminder that Olive Barrows is having a conversation tonight on inclusion of persons with disability, considering that International Day of Persons with Disabilities being marked on the 3rd of December. Ahead of that, she's got a very expert panel, including those who are living with disability, representing them, and those from the National Council of Persons with Disability, to talk about what inclusion for persons with disability means and looks like in very practical terms. That is still coming up here on The Explain, but first, this break. Welcome back. Now, a family in Kiambu County says it is living in fear after what they claim are attempts to grab their 236-acre piece of land by unknown powerful individuals. Josephat Njoroge, a coffee farmer, says the last 2 months, officers from DCI headquarters and National Lands Commission have not only visited his home, but also summoned him to shed light on how he acquired the parcel of land. The family has also reported cases of vandalism inside their farm, and which they attribute to efforts by the powerful individuals to disrupt farming activities before evicting them.
When we meet Josephat Njoroge at his Ngurunga farm in Tinganga, Kiambu County, he is busy with other family members clearing the compound at the graveside of his late father Mwangi Mbodhu. However, the family is living in fear that the grave of the man who acquired the 236 acres farm could be destroyed if events of the last 2 months is anything to go by. Njoroge says he has honored summons to appear before DCI detectives and NLC officers who are probing alleged offense of forgery.
We have been summoned more than twice or thrice to DCI, and we have honored those summons, but we have never been investigated. National Land Commission, they visited us. And when they visited us, they came in full force, and they demanded that we present ourselves to their offices.
The family says they are being harassed by unknown powerful individuals who are interested in the piece of land which they purchased 51 years ago from a white settler.
Government has taken 11 acres for land for road development. Expansion of the road, Kiambu, Rioki, Giawa Road. And we were paid. From the same land, we have given to Adi Water 3 pipeline easement. We have been paid, and nobody has ever raised a finger.
Our investigations with our lawyer, we can tell you, for example, is that they have tried to talk to the land registrar to intimidate him. We are glad that he actually stood and said anything outside or beyond what is actually on file, he is not going to do that.
Following the intimidation, the family says they have experienced cases of vandalism, leading to losses of properties worth over 200,000 shillings. They have also received threats of invasion, a matter that is still under investigations at Tinganga police station.
We are raising a cry because this thing is happening. People are being threatened. People are being abducted. This is the thing that is being done today. And what people are saying, every time it happened, it is a DCI.
National Land Commission confirmed summoning Njoroge to ascertain the ownership of the land before settling money owed after government acquired part of the land, but denied the summons were connected to claims of land grabbing. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV.
Safaricom Sambaza Furaha Caravan continued for the second day with its mission to bring early Christmas cheer to residents of the Greater Western Region. The caravan made its way through key towns and areas including Bungoma, Mayanja, Harambee, Mumias and Kakamega, offering the local communities an unforgettable taste of the holiday spirit, courtesy of Safaricom in partnership with Royal Media Services. Ben Kirui is part of the campaign and brings us this coverage.
For Bernard Manyuru, a resident of Bungoma, Tuesday's stop at Mayanja was particularly special. Bernard was one of the lucky winners who walked away with a goat. The Sambaza Furaha Caravan bringing more than just excitement. This is what it meant to him.
Nimefurahi sana kupata mbuzi mahali hapa kwa Safaricom na ninawaomba tena waendelee hivyo hivyo kutusawadia ndiposa tukule Christmas kwa amani. Wapi hao? Wewe, nani na mtu wako?
Mary Wafula was another lucky winner, receiving a prized chicken, or ingo, as it's locally known, a much appreciated gift in the area. Her surprise early Christmas present was a reminder of the campaign's commitment to making this festive season extra special for the residents of Western Kenya.
Nimekuwa huko nyumbani nikasikia mdundo nikasema acha tu pia mimi nifuate, alafu nikakuja kumbe nilikuwa na bahati.
The caravan, which is part of Safaricom's ongoing celebrations marking 24 years of service, made stops across Bungoma from Mayanja, Harambee, Mumias, and wrapped up the day's journey in Kakamega.
Nakimbia mbio nikuje niwaoneko kama ninaweza kupatako zawadi. Na Mungu ananisikia, nimepata zawadi. Ninashukuru watu wa Safaricom sana.
In addition to a wealth of exciting prizes, the Sambaza Furaha na Safaricom campaign also included valuable business tips and sensitization on how to protect oneself against mobile money frauds.
Naona wanabiashara wako hapa wote, hawa wanabiashara tunawaeka kwa pochi la biashara na tunawaambia waingie kwa pochi la biashara. Waweze kubonyeza *334 hash na hapo waweze kuweka pesa yao, hapo itakuwa iko salama na iko safe.
There is a lot of activities happening and we're getting feedback about the services, better services that we'd like to get from their number one telecom provider, Safaricom. and the better services that they would like to get from our services, our platforms, and I think it's a win-win situation.
In collaboration with Royal Media Services, the campaign continues to create unforgettable moments, with locals being treated to an exciting day of festivities featuring a fantastic lineup of music and dance performances by renowned artists, along with the chance to interact with popular presenters from RMS.
Mashabiki wametupokea pakubwa, burudani pia wamepata kutoka kwa Steve K, Harry Richi, na pia vile vile wakafurahia kukutana na watangazaji wao wanaowapenda tena zaidi.
The Caravan will head on Wednesday to Yala, Ugunja, Ukwala, Rangala, Siaya, Usenge, Nyamonye, and Bondo to feel the joy. Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Kakamega County.
After correctly predicting 13 out of 15 games, Michael Ochieng, a Juakali artisan from Kisumu County, becomes the latest winner in the Shabiki Super Jackpot Play and Win game. Ochieng, the father of two, who used only 99 Kenya shillings to play in the Shabiki Super Jackpot game, could not hide his joy as he collected his check. He now aims to win the jackpot, which has grown to over 15 million since its launch in December last year. Annabelle Obala has more.
It was all smiles for one Michael Ochieng, a Juakali artisan from Kisumu County, as he emerged the latest winner in the Shabiki Super Jackpot Play and Win game. Ochieng, a 28-year-old man and a father of two from Kisumu County, scored big after successfully predicting 13 winning outcomes, which earned him a bonus prize of over 100,000.
Nilikuwa nakula chapati na chai. Sasa vile nilisikia nimeshinda nikaongeza.
With several try and error attempts, Ochieng could not hide his joy and narrated how he got the exciting news that changed his life. He swore to continue playing the game, setting his eyes on the jackpot prize that has tremendously grown.
Na bado nitaendelea kucheza juu natamani ile 15 million nipate hiyo pesa.
He now says he will use the money to expand his business in the Juakali sector at Riat in Kisumu County, as well as cater for the need of his family back at home.
Wambia hao wengine waendelea, wa join Shabiki, wacheze pia wapate faida. Kuna faida hapo. Wengine wanaweza sema ati ni mchezo, lakini kuna kitu.
Participants in the competition stand a chance to win exciting prizes within seconds by simply logging into www.shabiki.com and choosing the jackpot option to get started. Annabelle Obala, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Kenya is set to sign various developmental agreements with the Africa Export-Import Bank to revitalize the government's bottom-up agenda. Speaking at the opening of the 4th African Sub-Sovereign Governments Network Investment Conference in Kisumu, President William Ruto indicated the funds will not only go towards setting up industrial parks across the country, but also supporting the agricultural value chain to enhance food security. And as Laura Otieno reports, the clarion call at the conference was heavy on strengthening devolved units in order to foster sustainable development.
The conference that has brought together more than 1,000 delegates from across the continent aims to identify trade and investment opportunities that will strengthen the different sub-sovereign units which are known as counties in Kenya.
Kenya for East Africa.
The conference that has brought together more than 1,000 delegates from across the continent aims to identify trade and investment opportunities that will strengthen their different sub-sovereign units which are known as counties in Kenya.
Development partners.
At the conference, agreements were signed that will go towards setting up 7 industrial parks across the country, revitalizing the cotton value chain, as well as setting up a quality assurance center to standardize the goods produced in the local industries destined for the export market.
We have agreed with AfriExim and we will be signing off. They will be providing resources for us to do the infrastructure to support these facilities so that we can again work with them in looking for the investors that will invest in these special economic zones.
By leveraging the requisite financial resources and fostering partnerships, we aim to catalyze local community development and enhance coordination and collaboration among sub-sovereigns. This in turn could optimize economic, trade and investment opportunities across our cities and regions.
Lake is an important...
President William Ruto also advocated for intra-African trade, urging countries to sign on to the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which will reduce the losses incurred during currency exchanges.
Professor tells us we lose about $5 billion every year on just exchange rate losses because of moving from one currency to another, from one country to another. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System now gives us an opportunity for all African countries to trade in our local currencies without necessarily having to mind about which currency, which product from which country is being traded.
As Africa seeks to place itself on a steady path of self-sustenance, various stakeholders are calling for more involvement of grassroots populations in order to foster meaningful, sustainable development solutions. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV, Kisumu.
The Ministry of Mining and Blue Economy has undertaken an evaluation of mining permits with the ministry in an effort to determine the contribution of the mining sector and weed out investors with multiple dormant licenses. Cabinet Secretary Hassan Joho says investors will be required to show proof of funds to get licenses, insisting that Kenya will not be a playing ground for speculators. As Jimmy Mbogo reports, the government is actively implementing policies to ensure responsible extraction and promote value addition.
100 to 120 billion shillings worth of investment to optimize the mining areas that have been prospected, with the value set to go even higher as other geological surveys continue. According to the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Mining and Blue Economy, Hassan Joho, the recently concluded geological mapping of the country's mineral resources highlights the opportunities for exploration and development.
And therefore, it varies. But what I know is that areas where we've allowed people to prospect, we're looking at more than 100 billion, 120 billion worth of investment that is to come into the country. But specifically for every mine has a different value in terms of investment. So you can't really tell, I need an investment of this much money. It will change from mine to mine, yeah.
The CS has also defended the move to increase license fees while sending a warning to investors holding multiple licenses for speculation purposes.
A license of an investment, look at, for example, Best Titanium. Initial investment was $350 million. The license was 500,000 shillings, and even at that time was 50,000. So if you want to come to this space, it's not child play. It is not. So if someone really complains of a 500,000 mining license fee, then I can tell you he's not a serious investor.
Meanwhile, investors called for a review of the Mining Act to allow them more time for royalty payments, but the government insists that the 120 days provided are sufficient.
The third thing is, as provided in the regulations, to really allow miners and dealers, there are 120 days provided for in the regulations for royalty payment. At present, the same is demanded prior to export, failure to which an export permit could be denied.
Why do you think your government is in the business of waiting? That you're saying 120 days is such a short time, ongeza 60 days, while you will not export without an LC or a TT or a swift transfer. So to just agree, wakati pesa yako inaingia, and others also be paid and on time, isn't it?
As the Mining Investment Conference and Expo kicks off here in Nairobi, the Cabinet Secretary for Mining says his main target is increasing mining sector contribution to GDP from the current 1% to about 3%, and also to ensure that Kenya becomes a power hub in the region. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Ride-hailing company Uber now says drivers and those offering delivery services on their platform earned an average of 2.2 billion shillings in 2023. The findings are published in the Uber Kenya Economic Impact Report. Jasmine Mamboy has the details.
The Uber Kenya Economic Impact Report shows that the company contributed over 14 billion shillings to the economy last year. The company says it estimates that its food delivery arm, Uber Eats, created 534 million shillings in additional value for restaurants by leveraging delivery. To the tourism sector, Uber says it contributed 2.7 billion shillings in additional revenue, while the app supported the realization of 167 million shillings in the nighttime economy by facilitating transport to bars and clubs. Imran Manji, CEO of Uber East Africa, says the company's diversification has allowed it to survive the prevailing economic times.
We've introduced new products that are priced at a lower price point, for example, the electric bodas, which allow consumers to get around the city in a more affordable manner.
The company says it continues to place focus on balancing the interests of both passengers and drivers at a time when a section of drivers have alleged poor contractual terms and little pay.
Uber is a two-sided marketplace. What that means is there are drivers and there are passengers. And what a driver wants in terms of fare on a trip may not necessarily equate to what a passenger is willing to pay. And our job as the market makers to try and find that perfect balance.
In the region, Nairobi remains the company's biggest hub ahead of Tanzania and Uganda.
So I would say Nairobi is the shining star of Uber in this region. It is where the majority of our trips happen, and the other cities still have work to do to catch up. So I look after East Africa, so it's my job to also build those other cities. And they're each quite unique. Uganda is very strong on moto. Tanzania, everything is quite regulated, so there's limited flexibility of what can be done. But we are always expanding.
Uber Kenya Economic Impact.
Jasmine Wambui, Citizen TV.
Rambo Classic, a public transport service provider plying Kajiado and Nairobi, has acquired 24 new electric buses. With one bus costing 8 million shillings, the SACCO boasts of 30 electric buses so far. The deal, made in collaboration with Basigo, a Kenyan electric bus manufacturer, will have customers enjoying the first electric bus experience in Kajiado. The 24 buses will ply the route of Kitengela, Nairobi, Devki and Great Wall in Athi River, with Rambo Classic looking forward to improved business due to increased capacity of the electric buses compared to the diesel vehicles. Basigo proceeds with plans to deliver 1,000 electric buses in Kenya.
From diesel to green energy, and that is why we preferred to change with technology. We have been used to low capacity buses, the buses that ferry 33-seater, but these ones are carrying seated, that is 36, and then standing 18 passenger.
For every electric bus that we are launching on the road, that we are flagging off on the road, it's avoiding up to 50 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, creating a clean environment. For every bus that we are launching on the road, it's improving the business economics of matatu investors and matatu operators, making matatu business, making the transport industry a profitable industry.